Dr. Dutton, what do you shoot when you golf?
I don't count.
You don't count, okay. I didn't know you were a golfer.
Some good, some bad.
Like any good golfer. Some good, some bad, huh?
Yep. I write a card.
We should. Okay. Yep. I'd like to call the June 8th meeting of the Winchester Board of Education to order. And let us begin, please, with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Let's do the roll, beginning with Michelle.
Michelle Intz.
Alex Brophy.
Dick Dutton.
Doug Fanninger.
Melanie Brady Shanley.
Tara Sovey.
Thank you. Under the agenda review, we do have one change that I know of. If there's any others, let me know. But we would like to move the appointment of Cassandra up to the next item on the agenda. If they have no objections, can I have a motion for that?
I'll make a motion to, where is that on here?
So
I'll make
go
a motion to move,
right here. You're gonna put motion.
letter C, under board action items, to above comments from the chairman.
Okay, thank you. And a second? Thank you, Alex. All in favor?
Okay, so the motion was to move, Michelle, what was the item number?
It is C, under board action items.
C from board action items. And the motion was made by Michelle, second by
Me, Alex.
Alex. First Michelle, second Alex, and then it was unanimous.
Tara, I'm gonna try and take notes too, and I'll give them to you, and you
No,
can.
that's okay. I don't reimburse. I'm okay. Thank
All
you.
right. Are there any other changes to the agenda that anybody would like to make? If not, then let's go on to appointing Cassandra Murphy.
Okay, so before our official appointment, I'd like to introduce Miss Cassandra Murphy to our team and our audience. Miss Murphy, if you would please stand up, just so that everybody knows who you are. I am going to read some information to you all regarding Cassandra. So the position that she is being potentially appointed to tonight by the Board of Education will be the position of Assistant Director of Special Education here for Winchester Public Schools. So she'll work in partnership with Seamus in his office. Her primary responsibility will be to oversee the Gilbert School as an on-site administrator to be able to do teacher evaluations, lead professional learning for those teachers, and then also to attend to any student needs and planning and placement team meetings that will be held at the Gilbert School. In addition to that, she will continue her role of program development at the pre-K 6 level for this upcoming year, and continue to be part of our leadership cabinet, which helps to make instructional decisions throughout the district. So that's, in a nutshell, her kind of job responsibilities, but I want to tell you a little bit about her background and what has made her a fantastic candidate for this position. Cassandra's been part of our team for a while now, and she's had no better job interview than the in-person job interview every single day. She's a counted-on colleague. She's been in front of the Board of Education on multiple occasions. She's led our social-emotional development work this year, and you know, when we looked for a candidate for this position, she just instantaneously rose to the top in terms of her qualifications. And not only that, it's just been her dedication to Winchester Public Schools and the work that she's completed. So to tell you a little bit about her, she's joined tonight with her family. Her family lives in Canton. Her husband, Michael, her two daughters, Isabel, 11, and then she has Juliana, who is 9. They have a cat named Kitty, and really creative name, by the way. Yeah. And they have a family of 8 chickens right now. Cassandra joined our district in July of 2015. Her current position that she holds within the district is a school psychologist, and again, she focuses primarily on obviously taking on the role of school psychologist, but she's done a ton of program development work for us. She comes to us with experience and college degrees. She has a bachelor's of science with a concentration in psychology from Michigan State, a master's of counseling of psychology from Lesley University. She is an educational specialist out of the UConn Mass in Boston, and educational leadership certificate coming from Sacred Heart. In addition, she also has a certificate in applied behavior analysis from Florida Tech Institute. Her work experience, both past and present, was in the pursuit of her bachelor's degree from Michigan. She found a passion for counseling and working with children. And she did that through work at a domestic violence center. Upon graduation, she moved to the East Coast and worked in a variety of inpatient child and adolescent units, including Yale New Haven Hospital. She then transitioned to residential school setting for children with autism that served the pre-K to age 22 realm. Those combined experiences led her to pursue a master's degree. While in graduate school, she worked for the Boston Public School System as a mental health counselor. Shortly after that program, she serviced over 1,000 families in the greater Boston area, and then she was promoted to a program director. It was in this role as program director that she worked closely with local schools to transition students to receiving birth to 3 services into the public school system. That experience led her to pursue a degree in school psychology from University of Boston, or Massachusetts, I apologize. During this educational experience, her family relocated to Connecticut, and upon graduation, she began to work as a school psychologist for Winchester Public Schools. For the last 3 years, she's expanded her student support services across the district in a variety of ways, including developing educational and social emotional programming, creating strong partnerships with families, and engaging in difficult conversations when needed, extracting and analyzing grade level data, school-wide data, and social emotional data, facilitating crisis intervention, evaluating and implementing curriculum and social emotional programs to meet the needs of learners, forming partnerships with community programs, and providing professional development for the implementation of high quality instruction. So, we often wonder why people move into leadership. Sometimes you feel like the land of leadership is absent of students, and it's the polar opposite here within the district. I think our leaders are so hands-on, and that's one of the things that for me feels really special about Cassandra joining in this particular capacity is her day-to-day work still consists of working with children. So, her reasoning for moving into leadership was to become a member of the Winchester community as a psychologist 6 years ago. She knew the district was about to start on a journey through receivership, and that was when she had joined us when the receivership had started. Eager with excitement, she joined and welcomed to be part of a system that was going to embrace change and expect expert guidance in order to better serve the community. From that day 6 years ago, she witnessed tremendous staff dedication, a passion to fulfilling Winchester's vision, and to help students realize that they had dreams and that they were able to achieve those dreams. Simultaneously, during the district transition, she reaped the benefits of being a part of a team that was highly valued and valued quality professional learning, set rigorous academic goals for students, and collaborated with administrators who supported not only the development of the whole child, but her own learning and growth as well. It is from those experiences, coupled with her background as a school psychologist and recent education and experience in educational leadership, that laid the foundation for her development as a leader. As an advocate for all students, she is excited to be part of an administrative team that is committed to utilizing data to inform high-quality instruction while creating an environment for all learners. It is her goal as a leader to improve educational outcomes for all students so that they may be productive and prepared as adults. While doing so, she is committed to partnering with stakeholders, community members, and parents in order to develop and sustain relationships. Lastly, as an educational leader, she is committed to the ongoing development of staff through high-quality professional development, and she strives to foster the development of not only our students and families, but staff as well. And according to Cassandra, she is thrilled to be part of a system that supports each student to realize their own dreams. So at this time, Board of Education, I'd like to ask for action on the appointment of Cassandra Murphy.
I'll make a motion to appoint Cassandra Murphy.
Michelle first, Doc second.
Any discussion or comments? I would just like to add one comment. Cassandra, you've been here about the same amount of time I have, and you've presented to this board on a few occasions. I've always been really impressed by your knowledge and your compassion and your ability to work with kids, and it's so rewarding to have somebody come into the district and grow with you and become a part of the team. So thank you very much for everything you've done for us, and we look forward to having you in a leadership capacity here.
Welcome.
I also want to say that it's exciting to watch you grow from within, because we've met many times because I have 3 kids. So I've been able to meet you as a parent and as a Board of Ed rep and as a citizen and everything else. And I couldn't think of anybody better. So I'm glad to see you there.
Any other comments? If not, can we vote? All in favor of the appointment? It's unanimous. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Cassandra, would you like to speak? I can. Okay, why don't you come up and borrow Chris's microphone if you would, please? Oh, okay, then, right here then, if you would, please.
I don't know if I remember the batteries.
Now I feel the pressure's on me.
No, I lied. You have to get
Here, there.
Sorry.
You're good.
Well, I guess I would just like to thank.
Actually, Cassandra, move towards the pole. Yep, pick up the mic, because you're on TV right now,
It's a
so
two-step
we want to
direction.
see you on TV.
I got it.
So now there's no pressure at all.
There's just a little.
No. Am I good? Okay. All right. So, Mr. Chairman of the board, ladies and gentlemen of the board, Superintendent Shanley, thank you for this opportunity. I came into this district 6 years ago and just fell in love with the community and the team's commitment to helping each child through the vision of reaching their full potential and realizing their dreams. So I've been blessed to work with many amazing colleagues that specialize in different content areas and have learned so much from our students primarily and our families. So I need to thank the administrators here who have answered countless questions and really fostered my development, especially Barb and Seamus, for all of their mentorship and providing me with opportunities and pushing me outside like my comfort zone. So that's, I don't know why I'm so emotional. I know you're not a hugger. And letting me take risks, and some were great and we celebrated them, and others we don't talk about anymore, and that's okay too. So thank you for that, and I need to thank my family, my husband. I'm getting old, and I'm a lifelong learner, so can you imagine how many years I've been in and out of school, but he's really supported me. And the girls have been my champions. I've missed soccer games, and they didn't really complain about frozen food too much, So I appreciate that, girls. Thank you. And I'm so excited about this opportunity. I'm so excited I'm here in the district. And Mel, I wanted to thank you for really and acknowledge your commitment to growing leaders in the district and growing staff in a variety of different capacities. And I've been fortunate to be able to participate in district conversations and the reopening plan. And I would not have had those opportunities in another district. So I really thank you for that. And when you came in, you kind of really set the bar high, and all of our students should be achieving, and you provided quality professional development and resources and mentorship through that. So I want to thank you for that. Okay. How did I do? Thank you. Thank you.
Seamus, I know that Cassandra is going to be your very close confidant and partner. Do you want to speak to
Sure, absolutely.
this evening?
How are you, Mike? Okay. Yeah, you're right, you're right. So, you don't want to be near me? No, I don't want to be in the video. Should be in the video. So, Cassandra, we've known each other now for, I'm finishing on my 5th year here, and you were here when I got here. So, immediately when I got here, I recognized that I had to come up with a team that would really be able to support me and my vision, and the vision of the district that we had. Mel wasn't on board yet, so still in receivership, still a lot of changes that are going on, and you had been part of you know, the 3 or 4 or 5 or 8, I don't remember how many directors that I kind of gone through here. So, you know, I really identified some people early in this district that I would really need to have that level of support with, and you've been one of those people since day one. You know, I can count on you to do anything. You know, although I haven't had an assistant director all these years, you know, I've really relied heavily on Cassandra to do a lot of things that a school psychologist wouldn't normally do, because I needed that level of support, and she was always able to rise to the occasion. Always collaborating, always coming up with great ideas, always thinking outside the box, always wanting to learn, always trying to figure out a way to meet kids where they're at, but still having an understanding of fiscal responsibility, an understanding of, you know, that not everybody's going to get what they want when they ask for it. So I think overall, I couldn't agree more with Mel, is that I think she's perfect for the job right now. I will say this, that I think that she's not long for a supervisor type position. I think she'll grow very fast into a director's role in the very near future, and I will continue to support her in anything that she wants to do, because I think that's absolutely what we need to do for all of our staff that we have here in district. So I couldn't be happier, and again, I thank the board personally for allowing this appointment to happen, because I think it's really going to allow me to even dive deeper into the work that I have to do as a director, and also having Cassandra's support during that time. So I'm very, very excited to have Cassandra join us. Thank you.
Congratulations. So, girls, I know that it's probably approaching bedtime very soon, right? Or is your school year over? Not yet. So I know we have a really exciting agenda, but if you guys don't want to sit in a board meeting all night, you are welcome to leave whenever you guys want. You're welcome. We're very proud of you guys for supporting your mom.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
So, under my comments, while we're on the subject of stellar performance, recently, Nora, Michelle, Chris, and I met with Melanie to perform her annual evaluation. And the short version is, as usual, she did an outstanding job. As you may recall, we use the New York Superintendents Association matrix for evaluation. And within that, there are several categories, including relationship with the board, relationship with the community, staff, financial management, and we found that she'd been doing an excellent job in all of those areas. But the one thing that really did stand out to us this past year is that it was an extraordinary year because of COVID, and many districts were unable to keep open for most of the year. And unlike those districts, Melanie got about 80% of our students were
In person
throughout the school year. And that required an extraordinary amount of planning and work on her part, and Barb's and Rosie's and Seamus. So it was a team effort, but the fact that we were able to do that not only brought recognition to the district from the governor and from the commissioner, but I think from our community, just the fact that our kids were able to be in school for as long as they were was certainly a major achievement for the past year. So later on in the agenda, we will be acting on extending Melanie's contract for an additional year, which will give her 3 years on her contract. And I would just like to, at this point in time, say I would highly recommend that we do so. We can talk about the details later.
Thank you.
Okay. We have no presentations this evening. Is there any public comment? If not, we have on our agenda a special public hearing for stakeholder input on the usage of the American Rescue Plan funds. And I don't see anybody here to speak to that.
Jay, did you want to speak to any suggestions? Just wondering.
Just called to come and sit. So my son said, Mom, go listen. I'm like, "Go listen."
I will say there is an active survey out on the American Rescue Plan so far. Well, as of last night, we had 40 participants so far on the survey. So I just want to actively encourage our community and any of our stakeholders or anybody in town that has input on that to please feel free to access the survey. It's on the Winstead page, Neighbors Helping Neighbors, and then also our Facebook page.
Okay. With that behind us, we can look at our consent agenda. We just have the minutes of our regular meeting of May 11th. Is there a motion to approve those minutes? We have a motion and a second from Chris. All in favor? Thank you. Dick or Chris, do you have anything to inform us about what's happening at Gilbert, or is it pretty quiet right now?
We did meet in May. Right now, the focus is really on graduations. We have 8th grade being promoted tomorrow, and seniors, and they struggle to come up with some ways to celebrate them because it's a very difficult thing to try to do. But they have a prom and they have a graduation, and they have a senior night, and they have all kinds of events. So they were able to come up with ways to still make sure the kids had some fun. Also, we have the new head of schools coming on board, and also Sue Soika and Dr. Seria will be retiring at the end of this month. Let's see what else. A lot of talk about building and grounds and budgets and ventilation, and I believe, is it a roof quote that we got this last time? And also some talk about how to use the remaining, what they call COVID funds. There has been a lot of personnel committee meetings recently. A lot of different topics have come up, but along the way, a lot of people were recognized for their outstanding work beyond the call of duty. The nurses and the secretaries that covered for a missing secretary, and so many people up there that just pulled together this last year to give extra. And we also had the Gilbert Administrators Association acknowledge, what's the word, Doc? It's
They're unionized.
They're unionized now. Yeah, we acknowledge them, or there's some specific term we had to do, but their contracts are in. There was a lot of discussion back and forth, and a really big realization, especially among the personnel committee, that came to light to the full board, that there's a lot of policy that's missing, especially when it comes to
A lot of what missing? I'm sorry?
policy,
Really?
especially when it comes to things like salaries and responsibilities and things like that. So
So
there's
they don't have job descriptions or contracts?
some of them are, but let's just say like most, like your cafeteria workers are unionized, but they're not there, so there's big fluctuations in, who gets paid how much, and, the cafeteria is kind of separate, kind of like it is now. You pay at advance and they pay them, but it's been running at a deficit for years, and so there's a lot of struggle with that, and so we've been working really hard on trying to make sure there's another thing that has been traditional is a standard raise across the board for everybody non-certified. And it's not merit-based, and it's not, by, so we decided, kind of we really need to look into it now. So we were, a majority of the school corps is now willing to look into that and create more policy, more consistent policies, so that's big on my purview coming up, so, along with meeting Mr. Shagru and spending some time with him over the summer. And I'm sure that's where our next focus will be.
Yeah. Thank you. Dick, do you have anything to add?
Nothing to add.
Okay, thank you. We have 2 items of correspondence this evening. One is simply a newsletter from the CABE liaison newsletter. We also have a resignation from Melanie Pilato.
Yes, Melanie Pilato is a first grade teacher at the Bachelor School, so I'm asking the board to acknowledge that we accept her resignation with regret.
Can you do that? And your superintendent's report.
Superintendent's report. All right, under instruction, this past month, we have hired a replacement first grade teacher. We're happy to report this person was an internal candidate that has served in several non-certified positions. to build her skill set. This is also part of our Growing Our Own program where, you know, there's no better interview than the individuals that we have within district that have the capability and the drive to become classroom teachers. So we're happy to be able to support an appointment that you'll see tonight, which is Justina McGuire, who's primarily been housed at Pearson School working for Barb, and she's just gone above and beyond. Anything and everything that Barb has put in front of her, she's taken and done her best with. So we're really happy about promoting her to this first grade position. Students did take their spring assessments, and a full report was conducted with the curriculum committee last night. Mrs. Silverio and I attended and participated in a webinar called Accelerating Learning. And then 6th to 7th grade transition meetings were held between Pearson and the Gilbert School. Ms. Silverio ran those. Students are in the process of returning their Chromebooks. We have received all but 12 Chromebooks back. Those 12 notices, they've received notices, phone calls, emails, and home visits. To date, they have not been returned, and parents will be now billed a $250 bill for the Chromebook and $15 for the charger. We have held PTO meetings, and I also assisted Sarah Gunther with planning the Scholastic Book Fair. Champs program held their spring drama presentation for a small group of family members, and they presented the Jungle Book this year. Held staff meetings for students at all, staffing meetings for students at all grade levels that are transitioning. We have completed all of our staffing reassignments for the 21-22 school year. Students participated in multiple virtual field experiences in partnership with the Maritime Museum and the Connecticut Science Center. End of year certified and non-certified evaluations are actively underway, and we will have 100% of our staff receiving evaluations as a norm. Mr. Cullinan conducted the ESY staffing meeting, so every year he holds a pre-summer school meeting and he takes the staff through what the expectations are, and he's conducted that. Students participated in award ceremonies, field day, and 6th grade will hold their promotion ceremony on, is it Friday or Thursday? Friday. I'm sorry, there's a typo in there, guys. And we're actively doing those award ceremonies. Both Barb and Rosie held their first ceremonies today. Oak Street goes tomorrow, but I think we have a newfound love of outdoor ceremonies. So we've had great response from families, students, and staff regarding the experiences of being outside for these presentations. So might be a new thing that we put into place. Under operations, I attended 2 trainings on the new American Rescue Plan grant application. I have attended multiple Hinsdale construction meetings. The Hinsdale groundbreaking has happened. I've worked with Mrs. Bernard on viewing the OEC grant opportunities for FRCs. Increased our sub-rate pay with Darlene for the 21-22 school year. And then our town budget was passed on May 29th. Under leadership, I continue to participate actively in the legislative committee with CAPS. As you may know, the budget, biennial budget, got released. So we're actively diving into that right now. Attending DPH meetings on COVID still. I did all the preparations for my evaluation for the board. Completed an exciting FBI security and IT training for all human resources trainers. Whoever knew that you had to do that, because we have to be really careful around fingerprinting and what comes back off of fingerprints and where it's stored, how it's stored, and who has access to that type of information. So it's a huge training that has to happen. I've been meeting with Josh Kelly, our town manager, on a routine basis to make sure that we're keeping really good open lines of communication together. Held multiple personnel meetings with Darlene, attended in-person Rotary meetings, participated in Litchfield County COVID meetings, and I am participating in an equity training, and it's specific for superintendents. There's a group of 19 superintendents through the state right now that are embarking on their own personal equity journey. It's not meant to be a training that is going to be rolled to staff, but it's meant to help you as a superintendent identify any equity issues, biases, you know, things in that area for yourself, but then it helps you to kind of brainstorm how to potentially roll out equity training and diversity training to the staff. So I'll be honest with you, this is an area where I think a lot of people can feel anxious about being able to say and do the right thing for fear of judgment. And I can say that I'm not an expert in this area by any means. And I have those same fears that a lot of my other colleagues have. So I think this training for myself is really important, that I get comfortable with this area of discussion, that I get comfortable with the training in the area, and I get comfortable kind of with what the direction is that the state is going. So there's no better place to start than with yourself, and I think that's where I'm starting my journey on being able to help our district take some steps forward in this area.
I may have missed it. Who's doing the training?
So it's a gentleman who's a professor out of Harvard. They're coining it equity training. Not that it's like any special title, but he's a professor out of Harvard that specializes in this area. When he talks about himself, he talks about his own journey and the fact that he, and this is his words, not mine, he calls himself an old white man. And, he gets a lot of people that question him and say, how, as an old white man, are you able to actively speak in this area around equity, whether it's, LGBTQ, whether it's cultural diversity, whether it's gender diversity, and he talks about his experience and how he's led that work for himself. So I'm anxious to be able to participate. I'll be doing 8 two-hour trainings with this particular group of 19 superintendents to be able to start this journey.
So how were the 19 selected? Is that voluntary?
Self-selection.
Self-selection.
Yes, so you volunteer. I don't think it's something that, people can be pushed into doing. I think for yourself, you have to be ready to embark on that own journey. So I decided that I was ready to embark on that journey and commit to it.
Be interesting to learn what you learned.
Absolutely. Hold on, sorry, my pages are sticking together, I apologize. Our district enrollment as of June 1st was 531. We are seeing, though, enrollments coming in for next year. We are also seeing many of our homeschooling students coming back and actively registering. So I would say we have a small percentage of our homeschooling families that went out this year due to COVID. And I'm saying small, I'm saying probably about 8 families that are going to remain as an active choice to remain homeschooling. The rest have pretty much indicated that they will be rejoining the educational setting. Our specific absenteeism rates right now, average daily attendance for Bachelor in the district and Bachelor, Pearson, and the district are all hovering at 94%. It's about 2% less than what we're normally we hover at 96 to 97%. But, with sicknesses, we have seen a lot of allergies right now. A lot of allergy confusion with COVID also, and families struggling to identify, is this a COVID symptom or is this an allergy symptom? So I feel good about where we're at. And if you see the month of May, you also see that month percentage average creeped up to 95. So we're starting to get, I don't want to say back to normal, but a resemblance of normal. And then you also see that our May chronic absenteeism rates dropped dramatically, basically in half of where they had been throughout the course of the school year. However, our overall district average of chronic absenteeism is obviously the highest I think it's ever been, but it's to no fault of anybody's that is the case. Looking at the Gilbert enrollment for June, their enrollment report states that there are 424 Winchester enrollments, 20 international enrollments, and 1 out-of-district enrollment for a total enrollment of 445. And looking at their grade level report, which is on the next page, you can see that data transmitted there. Would you like me to go into the budget? All right. So if you look at our overall appropriated budget for the year, right now we're sitting at a balance of $135,000. However, tonight before the board, there are several items that are in front of you for potential action against that sum of money. Looking at our grants,
Could we just, again, I want to point out that the personnel expense, we're $212,000 to the good on that? We're under personnel expense.
Yes, the 212.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that, we are allowed to, hold on to more of our grant money than we would normally be able to hold on to.
Okay.
So, some of the costs that would have been put against the grants have been put against this budget.
Makes sense. Thank you, Nancy.
You're welcome.
Nancy, I'm going to ask you to clarify the end number right now for the grants because it got cut off on my page.
Oh, well, that's a challenge.
I'm good, but not that good.
You can't just pull it out.
No.
Okay,
I think it was 400-something thousand when I looked at it last.
good memory, 400,768.
768?
Yes.
400,768. Got it. It was only off by $768. Not bad. I'll take it. And as Nancy just spoke about, our grant number seems high right now. You know, we're just shy of a carryover amount of $500,000 that's actually playing to our favor for this upcoming fiscal year because we're allowed to carry over a larger percent. You know, normally we would only be allowed to carry over 10 to 15% on most cases. And in many of those cases, it's a 15 to 20% carryover, depending upon the grant line. Any questions on that? Okay. So our food service, the goal is always to come in relatively flat on food service. It's not supposed to be like a profit-making experience. And I'm happy to report right now Nancy's projection is that we're coming in right at a profit of $4,000. So we are definitely teetering right now, as Nancy's saying. But, you know, we're very close to that comfort marker of where we're supposed to be. So we're to the good by about $4,000.
I would like to add, as a thank you to the folks that help us from Advance. Normally, we would get maybe $25,000 in fresh commodities from the state. And they have been very aggressive. Every time they see something that's available, they would ask for it. And we would get it oftentimes because other districts didn't bother to ask for it. So we have received almost $55,000 worth of commodities, which is the reason that we have a positive bottom line this early in the year, because the state reimbursement, if you recall, is usually 2 months behind. So it's very hard to show a positive number in June. So this is a big hooray.
And the other thing on the note of food service, we are continuing our partnership with EdAdvance over the summer to do the school meals program. So students, families will be able to get free meals over the course of the summer and ESY. And there'll be several spots located throughout Winchester community for families to be able to access free meals over the summer. And that's open to anybody that's basically birthed to age 22. We
So-
basically don't turn anybody away.
So the National School Lunch Program, is that funneled through the state? Is that the reimbursement you're referring to? Or is that,
Yes.
okay, so can you anticipate what that'll be, but you don't necessarily factor it into your budget?
Until all the numbers are reported, I don't have them.
Okay.
You know, also the wage numbers for any bills that are outstanding.
So-
Excuse me, the wages, the hours outstanding, and then the bills coming in for supplies, for the food supplies.
So your estimated adjustment is 43,000.
Right.
That's your best guess on where that's gonna be.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
And lastly, this is the second edition of the monthly Hinsdale report. I'm going to try to include some photos every time that I do this report so that you could see some of the progress that I get to see. It's super exciting. You walk into Hinsdale right now and looks a little bit like a war zone right now, and if you look at the field, but you know, I know that it has to get ugly before it gets pretty, so that's kind of where we're living right now. The way that I've set this report up is I'm talking to you about every 2 weeks I have a construction meeting with the full construction team, and we talk about what's been completed, what is currently in progress, and what is going to be happening in the next few weeks. So going through this right now, we do a safety report to make sure that if anybody has been injured on the job site, that I'm aware of that. There's been none noted so far. If you go over to Hinsdale right now, the playground has been completely demolished and that section is completed. The first and second floor abatement has been completed. The site demolition is completed. MEP, which is mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, is currently, they're working on capping things right now, and the electrical work on tracing different circuits is happening, and that is in progress. They are now abating the tunnel underneath the school in different crawl spaces. That is in progress. The interior demolition is well underway and in progress. Coming up over the course of the next 2 weeks, they will be doing removal of glass in the media center. They will be removing the oil tanks that are out under the ground in the next couple weeks. The foundation for construction for the new section is scheduled to happen in the last week of June, along with the first and second story demolition should be the last week in June. It may bridge over into that first week in July just because of steel I-beams right now are a little difficult to be able to get a hold of, but we are scheduled to receive those.
Mel,
Yes.
where is the tile?
Gone.
No, did they preserve it?
The tile?
The tiger?
Oh, I'm not sure. I don't know what tile.
There's a tiger tile inset right when you walk into the.
It's definitely not there anymore. It's moved on to a new life. So the three pictures that you've seen at the bottom is the long hallway that had like the art and the music room on the left-hand side there. What you see in that picture is that all the tiles are gone. All the ceiling tiles are gone. They're working on capping and they've removed a lot of the plumbing that was up in the walls. They've removed and pushed all the light fixtures off to the side. So that is basically down to just bare bones right now. You can't really tell, but you can see scoring in the ground, in the floor there, the concrete. That is for where they're going to be putting in additional piping, plumbing piping. So they've scored. It feels like you're walking on squares though when you're there and you're going to follow through the ground, but you're not going to. Dr. Dutton, you had a question?
Where's the brook?
The brook is still exactly where it was, but it's getting ready at the end of June to be able to become daylighted.
All the way?
The whole way across the property, it will be opened up, except for where the road is, like where the driveway is. It will still be under the driveway, but as soon as it exits under the driveway, it'll be daylighted. So.
I hadn't thought about it before, but is that a hazard for non-swimmers to have that much?
No, it won't be that deep, and it'll be completely fenced off. There will be no access to any of it.
Thank you.
Yep. The center picture highlights the fact that the tiger tile is gone. And what you may realize when looking at that picture is that there used to be a double set of doorways right there. The one set of doorways on the interior is now gone. They've taken all the ceiling tiles out. You can see there's a lot of electrical conduit kind of hanging around in there. But again, that whole area has been completely gutted. And then the picture on the far right was the boiler room on the first floor, and the whole boiler room is now gone. All the mechanicals in there are gone, and it's literally just a stovepipe hanging in a bare room right now. So it's pretty exciting to be able to see how fast they're moving. I didn't get a picture, but in the classrooms that are getting bathrooms added to them for our smaller children, they've already cut open the walls. So like some classrooms are joined because they're putting Jack and Jill bathrooms between the classrooms. So like all of there's holes in the wall right now where they're building into the bathrooms, but it's starting to really take shape in a very quick fashion. it's exciting. That's it.
Anybody have any questions for Melanie on her report? Okay, let's move on to board action items. We have a new hire you're going to inform us about.
Yes, so we have Julia Cardillo, which has been hired in Seamus's office as an executive, or I'm sorry, not an executive assistant, as the operations manager for the Office of Student Services. We discussed the transformation of the department.
I remember the name being selected and everything. Okay.
Erica Monroe has been hired as a part-time service coordinator and parent trainer out of our FRC. That position has been vacant for quite some time. Catherine Sansfield has been hired as a building substitute for next school year. And you'll have your own appointment of Cassandra Murphy, which you already did, so I will not mention that one. And that concludes our hires.
Okay. Nancy, I understand your parish has been once again generously donating to our school. Thank you very much for that. Do we need to vote on that, right?
You need to vote on acceptance. So Nancy's parish, and that's St. Andrew's Parish out of Kent, generously donated $250 to be used at our discretion. So in good faith, I'm going to ask that Nancy kind of help us to guide where that direction, that money goes, to be able to support our students.
It goes to the Critical Needs Fund, which is the fund that we typically tap into for winter attire for our children who are missing essential items. And actually, part of this $250 will be going to getting some sneakers for somebody. So, you know, it's great to have the monies to be able to use in such an instructive manner.
And I think Barb and Rosie can speak to, you know, how life-changing it is for a little kid to be able to get a set of snow pants when they see all the rest of their friends out playing in the snow and they might not have access to those same materials. And for our district to be able to provide that experience for children that otherwise would not have that opportunity, it's moving to be able to see how exciting it can be for a child to be able to get something that we think of as just typically part of winter apparel. So super exciting.
So I would make a motion to accept that donation with gratitude.
Second motion?
All in favor? Thank you, Nancy. And we've already appointed Cassandra, so we can move on to Melanie's contract. As I mentioned earlier, we did perform her evaluation, and she submitted her request for changes to her contract, which would be the additional third year. And Melanie is requesting that we increase her salary by 2.9%. And as you may recall, we've been paying her a stipend of $30 a day to act as the principal at Oak Street School, and she's asked that we increase that to $50. And those are really the only significant changes to the contract. So I would ask for a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion, questions, comments?
It was 30 to 50, is that right?
I would love to see the final version of that part I missed from the meeting,
I'm sorry?
the end of the meeting. You know,
Yeah.
when you did the rubric and all that. I'd love to see that someday.
Oh, okay.
All in favor? Okay, thank you. And we need to approve an MOU with Ed Advance for the Child Nutrition Services, which I assume is the lunch program we just looked at, right?
Yes.
And they're asking for $708 increase. That's pretty modest, considering all the good things you've told us about them.
Well, they had a pretty good increase last year. So,
Okay.
we had some pretty strong conversations last year, so we came to a pretty easy agreement this year.
Okay. Any questions on that?
In here?
The MOU?
Yeah.
I believe it is, yeah.
I don't have it in the electronic one.
I'm looking at All-Star.
So they
Yeah, I
were
lost
getting
track.
$52,000 a year, so it's going to the 52,780.
And that runs the cafeteria?
I beg your pardon?
That runs the cafeteria?
Yes, yes. She helps me oversee it, and keeps us out of trouble because she knows all of the nutrition standards and deals with the state and a lot of the stuff.
Oh, so is this a personal salary or is this a?
No, this is a contract service salary.
Okay, that's what I
So this
thought.
is a staff of 3 people.
Oh, okay, all right, great.
That, take care of us and a few of the other districts, kind of in the northwest corner.
That's for the whole district?
Yeah, it's a contracted service. It's not a salary.
Correct.
It's a service that Ed Advance offers, so the cost of the service is that
Oh,
much.
okay, all right, got it, thanks.
Any other questions on that? If not, is there a motion to approve that MOU with Advance for the Child Nutrition Program from Michelle?
Second.
Second from Alex. All in favor? Thank you, it's unanimous. And we have a contract with All-Star to be renewed.
In your packet on page
Yeah.
29 is the detail on it. Overall, there's an average of a 3% increase on a yearly basis, bringing us from this year right now of a $780,000 contract to in 2026 a $903,000 contract.
So,
We put it out to bid.
Yes.
And I deliberately had it emailed to some companies just to try and, shake something out to make it a more competitive process. We only received 1 bid,
yeah, there's
and that was
nobody
from
around.
All-Star.
Yeah.
So we did receive a very nice letter from one of the other companies saying, I'm sorry, we just didn't get a chance to bid this year. We'll be checking back again soon. And it was a company from Massachusetts that seemed interested, but they never came through, so.
So when we went through the COVID experience and we had to negotiate with them for a reduction in their fee, is there anything that we needed to change in the language for this contract to make that easier, if God forbid that happens, or is that just something you're gonna deal with if it happens?
I'm hoping it never happens again. They have not added any additional language to the contract to prevent us from renegotiations.
Okay, is that good or bad?
That's good for us, because had they added language that said that, due to pandemic or something like that, you agree to pay in full regardless of the number of transport, that would have been an issue.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised they didn't address that in the contract language. I
The
would
other
have.
thing was, because we did have some discussion about the contract, was that it would be on a per bus basis as opposed to, we would guarantee that they would be running X many buses. So that gives us some flexibility too with our routing and such. Because over 5 years, you don't know what's gonna happen.
Right, right. Any other questions on that contract? Is there a motion to approve it as presented
So moved.
from Chris and a second from Alex? All in favor? It's unanimous, thank you. And we have the Alliance Grant Project for replacing the fence around the Pearson School, which I understand you described a little bit last night as, it's pretty shabby as it is, and we're looking at
It's
an upgrade.
Shabby and in disrepair, it's rusted in many areas. So we're proposing removal of the chain link fence around the Pearson property and reinstallation of a black coated chain link fence that will look a lot more visually appealing, and then also not offer the rust and corrosion and falling apart that our current one does.
Will the black absorb the heat, make that a danger to the students?
They're never near it. They
They're
don't.
also not hot, I feel like.
Yeah,
Like
they're,
plastic coated.
it's like a plastic,
Oh, okay.
like, almost like a vinyl, almost.
Perfect, thank you.
Sorry.
So this was the result of 3 quotes, and this was the
Low bid.
price. The highest price was $44,600.
Wow.
So it was a bit of a spread.
How high is the fence?
8 feet.
And the razor wire on top?
No, part of it too is what the tough stuff is that they're gonna dig out the old posts.
Yeah.
And reset the new ones in, so it all matches. So,
Do they set them in concrete or they just?
Yes.
Yes.
Can I have a motion to approve that contract to replace the fence? From Dr. Dutton, a second from Michelle, all in favor? Looks like it's unanimous.
Just want to highlight for the board and the community, one, thank you for your support, but I think, you know, it continues to speak to the board's commitment to ensuring that our school buildings are maintained and aesthetically pleasing for our community. I think it brings a lot of pride when our properties look well-maintained and cared for. And this will just further that experience for not only our kids and staff that are at Pearson, but for our greater community.
So this is scheduled to be done after the kids leave, but before, isn't summer camp on site?
Probably happens simultaneously to summer camp being on site. Tanya is usually really good to partner with, to be able to say if we've got a project going on, we just let her know what's going on and where to kind of quarantine off the kids from certain areas. Nancy, we do expect that the fence will be in over the summer.
yes. This bidder actually seemed quite confident that they had the fencing, so there wasn't, one of the issues with some of the higher prices was that they couldn't get prices, they couldn't get a commitment for prices because of materials being so difficult to come by in some
I
capacity.
know that all too well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Limited.
And we have another project to replace doors in Pearson.
Yeah, Nance, could you speak to that one?
Yeah.
Or do we need to remove that from the agenda?
Well, I just got the information, and so I was just reviewing it, but, the last price to come in was astronomical, I have to say. But I think it bears more study before I would ask the board to give us permission to do it. But right now, it's looking between $35,000 and $62,000. So, and that was the door replacement project, so I want to look at the details and exactly what's being provided before we.
When does that, Nancy, was that being supported out of DAS or was that coming off of the?
Out of the general budget.
So we may need to have maybe a virtual meeting quickly with the Board of Education once Nancy does peruse that.
I mean, we can sustain that because you did see,
I know, but because of the price, we have to have board approval.
yes, absolutely, because it's over 20,000, yes.
Yeah, so we would need to have just a quick special meeting once Nancy, would you guys be willing to do that virtually? Yeah? Okay.
Absolutely.
So Nancy, we have $135,000 in the budget remaining estimated right now. And you're gonna use 25 of that towards the fence, right?
No, that's coming out of DAS. The fence.
Yes, the fence is coming out of DAS, the doors would come out of the budget, and there was $25,000 that I anticipated in the projection. So 25,000 of whatever the successful contractor is to do the doors was already spoken for at the 130.
So technically, if you went with the current low bidder,
It
it would be a $10,000 reduction in the overall amount.
In the overall budget?
The, what was it, $140,000 that's left, so it would be 135.
Okay, so that number would go down by 10 with the
So it'd
current.
be down to 125, yeah.
Okay. And you had mentioned earlier on in the meeting that there were other projects that you were going to discuss about reducing that, or is that premature?
That was one of them ones, and then I want to look at some of the field work that needs to be done now that we're upgrading the chain link fence, with potentially looking at doing that.
So we don't have time, if our fiscal year ends July 1st, we have to approve those expenditures before then, right?
So,
So will you have those numbers for us for the special meeting for the doors?
we'll do our best.
Okay.
Before the middle of the month, for sure.
Okay. All right, so doors, which means we can move on to talking about the contract with Litchfield Public Schools.
Yes. So at the direction of the Board of Education, I worked with Litchfield School District Superintendent Chris Leone to be able to offer up some seats for Litchfield High School for 9th grade. So we wanted to start off with this experience in a small way with up to 10 students that would be able to enroll in Litchfield Public Schools for 9th grade only. And then they would matriculate to 10th grade. So the board has had the opportunity to be able to review the contract that was developed with Litchfield. And it is for your consideration that we develop a partnership with Litchfield High School. And this kind of came off of, two reasons. One, the Board of Education seeking additional educational opportunities for our students. And number two, Nancy, are you okay?
Okay.
Gotcha. Number two, feedback with certain families saying, why can't we have other choices? So we wanted to see how a relationship like this could benefit our potential school district to be able to serve a wider variety of families that have choice for where they go to school.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is that open to, okay, so you have a set amount of seats going into 9th grade, is that only open to students who are enrolled in Winchester Public Schools or residents of Winchester, Winston, who would be going to high school? I could use myself as an example. Mine didn't go to Winchester Public Schools, but they attend the
It
high
would be
schools.
open, Alex, to anyone who is a resident
Okay.
of Winchester.
That's what I wanted.
We can't discriminate against you just being a public school student. Like, for instance, let's just say we had a homeschooling family that's historically homeschooled for a long time, but they decided that this is an opportunity as a Winstead taxpayer that they would like to try. They would have rights to that. Now, let's just say we have more than 10 people that are seeking this opportunity. We will do a lottery to be able to determine who those 10 seats. It'll be a randomized lottery. It'll be a public lottery and open for public viewing.
And short of, I read through some of like that, but not, I can't remember. Transportation?
So I'm working right now with Torrington's superintendent because she has 26 students right now that travel to Wamogo, which is right next to Litchfield High School. And we would be able to do a common pickup stop and then share transportation costs with Torrington Public Schools to be able to afford to provide busing for these. Now, let's just say these 9th graders would play sports over at Litchfield and they would want to join teams. It would be a parent responsibility for after-school programming as a choice.
That makes sense.
With that lottery, is it really do we really have control over who, the lottery system of who gets picked and who doesn't?
It would be randomized, like almost.
No, is it us or is it Gilbert? Could
No,
Gilbert
it's
come-
us.
Could Gilbert come and say, no, these are our students, they go to our school?
No,
here."
the Winchester Board of Education directs educational opportunities for Winchester Public School students.
Okay, perfect. Just wanted to double check that.
Dr. Dutton?
I was very impressed to read through the contract and realize that it's 10 students coming in the 9th grade. But within this contract, those 10 students, providing they do all right, will stay in the Litchfield system 10th, 11th, and 12th. Another 10 will come in the following year.
If
Do
the
the
board
same.
provides for that, yes.
Correct, but the contract allows for all of these things.
Correct. It allows the board at the end of the spring or in the spring next year to be able to determine if they're going to do 10 seats for an additional 10 9th graders.
So that without a different contract, this one will grow with the students.
Correct. It will cohort students.
But this is a one-year contract.
This is a one-year contract. The board has to choose to extend this contract.
Yes.
Yes, but it has the option of extension.
That would be the same as if we had had a contract with Gilbert.
Yes.
So here's an awkward question. Because a child who may in fact be in need of special education services, how does, it's gonna, let's say we have a 10th grader who would ordinarily be serviced at the Gilbert program.
Well, 10th grader would not be eligible because, so it would only be a rising 8th grader.
Okay, so I'm sorry, okay, so let's say it's a rising 8th grader who would normally go to Gilbert, and we have programs in place that would address that child's needs, and it really wouldn't be a significant cost to us because we already have the staff. But now they choose, and through the lottery, they're selected to go to Wamogo,
Litchfield.
Litchfield. That means
We have to pay for those
we will
services.
pay for services that
Yes.
we also have available at Gilbert.
Correct.
But that's not going to affect our randomized selection of those students.
Absolutely not.
So that's, okay.
So, to be honest with you, this happens all the time. We have students that go to Craig Magnet schools. We have explorations. We have, we have regional VOAG programs. So, I'm dealing with that all the time. Every kid is different based off of their IEP. So whatever services they get, they will get the same services. But it would just be like the same thing. We'd be paying salary to a teacher versus paying for a service at another place. So in the long run, it's basically a wash. If it becomes to the point where a student needs specific programming that Litchfield does not have and we do, then that would be us having a conversation at PBT and telling the parent that this is not a good fit for them because they can't provide the services that we can provide within district if they needed that high level need.
One thing I'd like to point out with the Board of Education, which differs greatly from our former contract with the Gilbert School, is this is a prorated contract. So let's just say I go to Litchfield. So I'm a general education student. First off, this contract, it's $6,000 less per student to go to Litchfield than it is to go to Gilbert. So that's a $6,000 savings per student that's going to here. If, let's just pretend I go to Litchfield as a 9th grader and I attend only half the year, then Litchfield is only charging me for the dates that I'm in attendance as a student. So my tuition rate would be prorated to half of 11.5. So, you're talking about 5.75, something like that, to be able to go to Litchfield. So that differs greatly in the fact that no matter how Gilbert charges us, they charge us a flat fee, regardless of the number of students, which they're supposed to be charging us per pupil, but they choose not to. They also do not prorate should a student leave partial year. So this particular area of the contract differs greatly from what we've experienced in the past and is in practice with many other districts and in alignment.
Bill, I thank you for doing that as well too, because as of the October 1 submission, the state reimburses whatever district the student is attending after October 1, prior to October 1. So if a student were to attend, say, a Craig Magnet school or something like that, after October 1, if that student is there, that money is released to that school district. So whatever the state puts aside per pupil cost, that is released to that school. If that student then leaves a week later and goes back to the district, that money stays at the school where the student was prior to the October 1st submission. So by Mel doing this and getting this in the contract, this allows for us to have that prorated, like Mel was saying, not have that issue where we now have lost money. That's a huge component to have in there.
Michelle?
You mentioned you were looking at transportation,
Yes.
but if you look at page 35, number 7, it says the custodial parents of the enrolled student shall be responsible for all transportation needs.
Yes, so we're working on that particular piece of the contract. When we developed the contract, the relationship had not yet been bridged with the other organization we're looking to partner with. So that'll be a bonus for those families to be able to receive transportation, thereby making it easier for attendance.
Should that not come to fruition, it's in the contract and they're fully
Correct,
aware that they
correct.
could be held,
Absolutely.
responsible
And on
for it.
page 37, C, if I'm reading C right, this means that if you have a child that started in 9th grade, went into 10th grade, and then re-terminated our contract, Litchfield High School is still saying that they will allow that child to attend, and we agree to pay the tuition until that child graduates?
Correct.
Okay.
We will not break the educational experience of a child that's having a positive interaction. Dr. Dutton?
I'll say again that I was very, very pleased to find this in the agenda to be acted on at this time. We've been struggling with the connection with Gilbert for many, many years without being able to find a good solution. This is a superb answer, and I hope you will all support it. I was worried about the statement about parents responsible for transportation, but you're, as usual, 3 jumps ahead of me and have got a mechanism for taking care of that. We don't know what it is yet.
It'll be at a minimal cost because the shared transportation will be between Torrington and us. Torrington will have the majority of the students on the bus. We'll have a third of the students on the bus. So I will work out a payment schedule with them that'll be representative of a third of the cost versus, you know, a 50-50.
My only regret is that this is now as opposed to 4 years ago. So-
Some things take time.
Oh, I'm fully aware of that, I understand that.
Melanie is to be commended for constructing this contract in all its pieces and bringing it to us.
Well, hopefully we can just kind of change some names in this next year when we start doing negotiations.
I also think that even if transportation doesn't work out, it's pretty standard that parents provide their own transportation. I know it's how like Heartland works.
But
Yes.
They can go anywhere, and I think parents still make it happen if it's something that they're.
If it's something your family is
If they
committed
want it,
to
they'll go
and
for
that's
it.
something
And
they
10
buy
is-
into.
10 is reasonable. I think that, you know, you could find 10 there.
I hope
Yeah.
the first step.
And this will
It's
also
getting
help us to
separation.
gauge kind of parent interest in being able to provide opportunities as the board and community sees fit.
Maybe you said this and I might have missed it, but should this go forward and be renewed, positive experience, it was great, let's do it again. And has there been any discussion as to the following year, okay, we'll go for 15, we'll go for 20?
That would be up to the Litchfield board and also to
we're
the,
not to this point yet.
no, we are definitely not there yet. We want to see how this goes. So that would be up to the Board of Education for Litchfield. They, I believe, are voting on this tomorrow night in their session. So this won't truly become a contract until Litchfield also agrees in their Board of Education meeting. But, you know, whatever our board shows tonight will be what I call Chris Leone with tonight to be able to report out on.
So, oh, go ahead.
My question also was, do we have students whose families would take up an offer like this?
Yes.
And-
Yes.
And the
Yes.
answer is yes, and adequate numbers.
You might have a
That
bigger
was-
lottery than your.
That's why
That
there's
was
a
gonna be
lottery.
my next question is,
But do we
if,
have at least enough?
if we,
I'm anticipating, yes, we will have enough, but we won't obviously know anything until we put an application out there and interest and be able to determine, you know, can families commit to getting their kids to the transportation stop at this time, the pickup stop, and all of that, and provide them with information.
if we vote yes on this and this gets approved tonight and then the Litchfield board approves it on their end tomorrow night, what is the time frame for getting that information out to the community and?
Next week.
And but how long do the kids have to apply or?
I will set up an entire process, which will be a publicly posted process. I want to be 100% transparent in this process. So I will develop a sequential time-framed process to be able to do presentations in partnership with Litchfield, so that way students and families can understand what Litchfield High School offers. So you don't want to apply for something that you don't know anything about. Then we'll have an application time period where students would be able to gauge, you know, and submit an application of interest. We would put those applications of interest into a lottery should there be more than 10 students. Then we will publicly, basically like a bingo thing, every application would be assigned a number, and we would publicly randomly select the 10.
So, Gilbert shares their mailing list for certain grades to Oliver Wilkett Regional 7, would they be willing to share that with us?
Legally, they must.
Okay, so we could.
Any educational opportunity that is afforded to public school children, any other school can access that information for the purposes of educational opportunities.
So we would have access to every 8th grader, and we could mail something to those 8th graders?
Yes, and we will.
Okay, perfect.
You're also finding she's 6 jumps ahead of us.
I know I am, but these are, I need to ask.
Mel, in previous conversations with Mr. Leone, I thought I remembered him saying something about Litchfield High School and Wamogo having like a back and forth, being able to share.
There was discussion of, wasn't it
So
discussion of the merge?
They're beginning conversations, and I don't want to speak on the record about this because I don't know their details by any means. But Litchfield and Wamogo, because Mr. Leone is the joint superintendent between the two districts, I understand that they do have some sharing going on, maybe of classes or experiences.
Right.
Beyond that, I can't speak to it.
Got it.
I will make a motion to go forward with the contract between the Winchester Public School System and Litchfield Public School System.
Second.
Second, third, fourth, fifth.
Any other questions or discussion? All in favor?
The only thing that I would like to say is thank you, Mel, for doing this. And after you see the amount of interest that you get, I hope that you can talk to other school districts.
I will do that when the Board of Education directs me to.
Fair enough.
I would love being on the committee, negotiations committee with Gilbert, and seeing the struggle that, you know, you guys have all been through over the previous years, and this is my first time. I would love to hear more later, maybe privately, just about how you were able to work through this, you know, what your process was.
I can share publicly, this contract, actually, the base of the contract came from Litchfield Public Schools. It's a contract that they've utilized in previous relationships with other districts. So we utilized this contract as a starting point.
This is not new to them.
This is not a new contract to them. However, we did add some more information. I wanted to be really transparent around what the general education tuition amount was in the contract, the number of students, the transportation, the special education fees and rate scales are included inside of here. Some of the other things that we changed was the timelines by which the Board of Education had to notify if there was furtherance or termination of the contract. In the original version, there was a 12-month. Clearly, that wouldn't work for us, so we shortened that time frame. Those types of things. But it was a really good starting point for us to be able to have, honestly, just a really easy conversation about what would meet the needs of both districts.
And I think this should be the starting point for our negotiations with Gilbert.
I think that's an interesting point that you and Chris have both raised, and that this puts the potential upcoming negotiations with Gilbert in an entirely new light, because now you have a foundation that says, well, this is what we're doing with this district. We'd like to apply the same principles and language to you as well.
And this is what this district is doing with all their other districts, so this is kind of a basis.
This is very common
Yes.
practice, and as we've attempted to do through over multiple negotiation sessions, this is what is a norm, if you will, in most practices throughout district-to-district relationships.
And you were able to do that with Chris without any board engagement.
None.
So I think of all the hours that we spend talking to Gilbert to no avail. So
Taking this action requires no dealing with Gilbert.
no, it's our students.
We are doing what we're doing.
I will inform Steve that we voted on this tomorrow, though.
Or after Litchfield approves, or no?
Well, I think our action, requires that we have, as a courtesy, let them know. So we've approved that, and let's take a look at the kindergarten enrollment numbers for next year.
Okay, so I might ask Rosie to help me out if we will a little bit. So Let me explain process a little bit before getting into what the numbers are. So every late winter, let's just say around February-ish timeframe, we start to solicit information on potential kindergarten students. We know where to find most of them. We find them at Winston Area Child Care. We hunt them down at various local child care agencies. No doubt, we literally are, and when I say that, we are literally finding children. Our Ed Advance program, Head Start program, and then our own Little Owls program. So, you know, we know who the majority of our kiddos are and where they're located. So that group is easy to identify. The second piece to that, which is not so easy, is when we have to come to town hall and you look at birth records and have to determine if those people are still in town and if they are still residents here and if in fact they're going to be sending their kindergarten eligible child to school. So in that process right now, Rosie has identified and confirmed 97 students for kindergarten with an outstanding number of,
So I just updated the numbers today.
okay,
So there's 92 that are definitely coming, and
Okay.
there's 7 outliers that we're still hunting down. And when I mean hunting down, it's door-to-door home visits, leaving notes out in the community multiple times.
so that being said, our kindergarten contracted number with the WEA is 18 students in a classroom. We would look at adding a 5th teacher because that would make our kindergarten classes gigantic if we did not with 4, and that would put about between 22 and 23 students per classroom, which is just not acceptable for kindergarten. So what I'm asking, Rosie and I have not finalized this because I really want to get the final numbers as to where we are, but I'm asking for the board's support as an action tonight that should we need to add a 5th kindergarten teacher, that the board would support my doing so.
So move.
So
You have a
18
question, or-
I have
is
a
the
question.
18 is your max, contractual max?
Yes, and then they pay for student by student should they go over the max.
So it's not really, so 18 times 5 is 90, right? So you might have, if you have 92, you're just gonna pay a stipend for that.
Correct.
You're not gonna hire another teacher.
Correct.
Okay.
A 5th teacher would be the max that I'm looking for.
Okay, and you have a classroom for that teacher?
We'll make it work.
So I will,
I would just add also, as of yesterday, we had 2 phone calls of families moving into town from Torrington that are not on that list. So we also have families that are moving in that are not accounted for on that 92 number. And over the summer, we always get a large amount of families moving in the kindergarten and 1st grade.
Or more just arrived that have been living here in town that we just haven't been able to identify in any way.
And you have to expect that.
Michelle?
I've got quite a few things here. First of all, I will second Doug's motion on this, Doc's motion on this. I do think the 5th grade, yes, the 5th teacher. God, I forgot what I was gonna say. No, financially, do you know where the money might come from?
Between all of the academic recovery money and our Board of Education general budget, we'll make it happen. We have title sources that grant carryover money. We would absolutely be able to fund it.
With the amount of kids that you guys were just talking about, people from Torrington, people that come over, just show up over the summer, would it actually be more beneficial to have a 6th teacher? Because as part of the budget, didn't we get rid of some of the kindergarten?
What I may consider doing is adding another kindergarten assistant back in, so we would move from 3 to 4, which would be a more economical decision.
Okay.
And then that's the plan right now, is that they will float from classroom to classroom to support. And we would have 4 of 5 classrooms fully covered, but 1 would be receiving floating service.
Because even though over the years I wanted to cut them, you have broken me, and you have told me how
They're so
important they
valuable.
are.
Glad to see I've brought you to the dark side.
Yes.
So,
Our data shows that.
Yes, absolutely.
What are we seeing in pre-K? Have we still got a cap on the pre-K?
We do. We've capped pre-K, and I think we're at capacity. I think we're at a wait list point right now on pre-K.
Correct. We have 4 students on the wait list. We have a few additional spaces in our 4-year-old and 3-year-old program, but those are for students that come in with IEP services. So right now, we're capped.
So those are basically students that come to us that say, you know, I have a speech and language, or I moved to town and my child has Down syndrome and we need educational support. Or those are kids that turn 3 or 4 coming out of the Birth to 3 program that necessitate services and need a transitional program before kindergarten.
And we normally been able to identify some of that with our relationships with Birth 3 and 4.
Yeah.
So we know what's coming down the pipe most of the time.
And our Family Resource Center has been instrumental in being able to communicate frequently with these families, being able to go out and speak to them in their homes, and developing those initial relationships that get them to connect with the school.
So our cap for pre-K is 45, is that right?
54.
So more than half of the kindergarten classes attending pre-K.
Absolutely.
But the 90 students don't apply for pre-K, it's maybe 60. You might get 60 applicants or something like that. So there's always going to be some number of children who, for whatever reason, don't opt. They're not interested in pre-K.
Yeah, and you know, for some families, it's just a personal decision that they don't want to expose their young children to academics. We heard a lot of that when we initially started 3-year-old preschool, and it was full day. Families were like, that's going to be too overwhelming for my child, but now they're seeing that it's not, and kids are responding and they're flourishing, and we have families upset, you know, when they can't get in. So I think we've really worked hard to get a lot of buy-in into this program.
So do you also, I'm not sure, your resources in the homeschooling community, obviously you're in touch with them, so is that one of the resources that you contact to say we're doing our open kindergarten enrollment if you're interested?
So homeschooling wouldn't typically start until kindergarten, but I'll be honest with you, we don't solicit a lot from homeschooling families because they're kind of, I don't want to say a protected class, but there are restrictions that we have because they've made their educational choice to be a homeschool. Like we can't be seen as trying to coerce, if you will, them to come back into the public school setting.
So you don't notify them like we're opening enrollment if you're
We
interested?
publicly open it to anybody in the community, but we don't actively go out and solicit.
And they are also on our list that we receive from the town. So we are reaching out to them with packets, we're sending them packets, and then they're communicating back with us saying, we're a homeschool family, we're gonna continue to homeschool our younger children or child.
So at what age do they have to meet with you to sign homeschool paperwork? Is it-
Technically, they never have to meet with us.
Oh, okay.
Connecticut is very, very loose in terms of homeschooling legislation, and it's very protected in this state. So really, there is a form that we encourage families to be able to fill out and say, yes, you're going to be homeschooling, but literally all they have to do is send me an email, make a phone call, leave a voice message, and say, we're homeschooling our child. That's honestly the extent to what needs to happen.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. Great, thank you. So if you'll let us know if that need arises. You need to send
I
it.
will. I'll email you guys to let you know, because we won't obviously have a board meeting until August, but a retreat in July, for sure. But I'll let you know ahead of time.
Okay. And speaking of retreat, we need to pick a date. Hopefully a cool date. We don't know that. Do you want to just do a doodle poll on that? Is that easier?
I certainly can do that if that's easier for everybody.
I think it probably is, because there's not everybody's here tonight, so.
I think you should also include the place that we're going to have the retreat.
Doug's house.
I know Michelle, she wants to swim.
I want to see the new pergola.
Okay. And we're moving our date for our August meeting to the 17th, so that's just basically,
No, the board has to vote on that change.
I'll make a motion to move the meeting from August 10th to August 17th.
Second. All in favor?
Who wants to make a
That's
motion
our
to?
regular board meeting.
Yes.
Michelle, do you want to make a motion to adjourn?
Thank you.
I will.
I'll second.
Yeah, because there's no committee meeting set up for August. Is that normal?
No committee meetings in August. Thanks, Barb.
Thank you, Shanice.
No, they start in September.
All set? Okay.
We're good. We are adjourned.
Can I just say, I'm so impressed with the